Ladies and gentlemen, please be aware that foul language is prevalent within the following production. Have a nice day.
Welcome back to another episode of the Offenders Podcast in the new year. This is Kyle, joined by Evan.
Merry New Year!
It's Happy New Year. In America, we say Happy New Year.
Thank you for correcting my English, which stinks. Beef jerky time. Sitting next to me is Shane.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Was that from Coming to America?
Close, trading places.
Damn it. I right after you said close, I was like, oh, wait, it's the one with Dan Aykroyd. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Jamie Lee Curtis's beautiful boobies.
Yep. That's true. All right, well, new year, new show. Why don't you start us off with something, Shane?
Before I start off with any kind of story, I would just like to mention, as I'm looking around Evan's domicile here, there is a wonderful mix of museum-style art. I see in there, in the little foyer, I see this naked woman, basically, but it's actual museum-style art, so it's not Evan's picture. And there's a Picasso-looking thing over there, and I turn my head, and there's another topless woman that's museum-style, and there's some abstract art, and there's this classy woman behind me, and these flower paintings, and in between these are Strong Bad, Cthulhu, Count Chocula and Boo Berry up on the shelf. We've got a Tombstone poster, and we've got Gaki no Tsukai. Yep. And it's the most wonderful thing I have ever seen. Is this mix of styles.
So I'm gonna assume that's from your girlfriend.
Yeah, we've been moving her in over the past couple of weeks, and she's put a real nice touch on the place. I put up a picture on Facebook of a bookshelf she made for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it from in here, but she actually put a pixelated heart on the side of it, and it says nerds.
So, she's really artsy, I'm guessing, then?
Yes, extremely talented artist.
Well, she should do some art for us, for the podcast. I'm just saying.
It's a good idea. I'm sure she'll be down. But yeah, it's so funny. She was like, do you think your dad's going to be okay with these naked women? I'm like, shit! Is he going to be okay?
He's going to walk in one day and your dad's staring at one of them going to town.
Yeah! he's going to come up to me, he's going to be like, son, I think you found the woman you need to marry. Go get some more titty pictures. But yeah, I knew that it was meant to be because, previous girlfriends have just been like, I don't like that anime poster, take it down. And she's like, we need to put a frame on your anime poster because it's nice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
See that? Yeah, I think a person who can, you have to work within the confines of stuff. Sometimes, couples will do things where it's well, you kind of have your room to do this stuff, and then you will kind of have this room where I do my stuff, and everything else will kind of just be a nice little mix of the others. But the moment you have somebody who's just fuck all your shit, motherfucker, I'm putting my stuff up, then that's probably not going to work out.
Yep.
Unless you both like the same stuff, and then that's good too.
Well, like I was telling Shane when I picked him up, last night when we were going to sleep, we were talking about Death Note, and when we woke up, we were talking about Puzzle and Dragon. She's amazing.
I guess she's at work.
Life's good.
Every time I hear that, I think Puzzling Dragon. It's just confusing. What the hell is that dragon doing over there?
All right, Mr. Red Dragon, this enemy you have before yourself cannot be harmed by chromatic gases, it cannot be harmed by flame, and it cannot be harmed by electricity. How will you cease its life?
Magic missile, of course.
That's true, some of the magic.
Wrong answer.
Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt!
Oh, man.
He's going to debate it to death.
Debate.
Yes.
They're intelligent, man. Come on. All right, well,
okay.
Getting back to some other fantasy. So I read this article. Well, actually, I saw a video on it, but there's an article too of these churches. There are 700 evangelical churches.
What kind of evangelical churches? Christian, Muslim?
It is indeed Christian.
Yeah, Christian.
And apparently, they want They have. Not that they don't want to start. They have. Like Jesus Fight Clubs.
Yep.
So they have MMA. MMA for churches. Because apparently not enough guys are going to church. And it's like, well, how can we get guys in here? Let's make some MMA. That'll do it.
Wow.
It is fantastic.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this spawned from a very specific sect of Christianity called masculine Christianity, correct?
It did. And I didn't know this, but apparently the reason that there are sports like in schools and stuff is because of masculine Christianity. They promoted it.
Yes.
Yes. And that's why people thank God when they get touchdowns and shit. Because, like, that's the reason that it's there.
That makes a lot more sense now.
Well, yeah.
It's like, I'd like to thank God for this opportunity. No, literally, there would be no sports if it wasn't for it. I mean, seriously. I wouldn't have got to make this touchdown otherwise. But that's fast. And I just want to say, like, Evan will recognize what I'm talking about. But when I heard masculine Christianity, the very first thing I thought of was on Riverside, the church Cross Connection. And every time I see Cross Connection, I imagine these two paladins of a church charging each from a different side of a person and doing a double clothesline on them from each side and call it Cross Connection! Yeah. And every single time. So I was like, this is where this has come from.
Or like two Dudleys doing a cross counter at the same time. Cross Connection!
Cross Connection!
Cross counter!
Cross Connection.
So, is this like a thing in... Did they say what denomination? Because I had an idea when I first heard about it what they probably were.
I didn't I didn't
Baptist,
see that.
I'm sure.
I was thinking like
They
Pentecostal.
just said evangelical. Possible.
Because they're the ones who like play with snakes. So like, what's the next level? It's like, I'm going to risk my life playing with this animal. Fuck it, I'm just going to fight dudes here in the middle of the church.
And if you get knocked out hard enough, you will just be like...
That's true. That's true.
He's talking to the Lord!
I could just see that now. What if he really is? Like, you can't see him because he's like invisible and everywhere. But imagine he's just looking down at him. I was like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, you got knocked the fuck out!
Yeah. The power of Christ compels you, motherfucker! Boom!
But hearing that pastor talk, he was just like, man, he's...
Literally, man.
He was just like, it's like he just came out of a bar with his friends. It's like, are you preaching to the church, or are you just talking to your friends at the bar?
Yeah.
You know, that's how Fight Club started. But, well, not... Okay, it's been out long enough I could spoiler alert. But basically, it was the guy walks outside drunk and decides he'd start fighting the other guy. And that's technically how Fight Club started, was they were just drunk outside of a bar fighting and other people joined in. And it became like this big club of people just to whoop the shit out of each other. They had rules, which I'm guessing this probably has rules too.
It's got the MMA rules.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's all MMA is. MMA is just a bunch of guys fighting each other.
Yeah.
Except for they're trained, I guess.
Well, these guys train too. They actually have training camps.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like if you see the trailer for the documentary that they made about it, there's quite a few noteworthy names there.
Yes.
And I mean, I guess we should have seen this coming, because you can only be, Jimmy Smits, the Christian ice block breaker / mega weightlifter for so long before you got to move to something else. Remember that shit where they'd have like taekwondo competitions for Jesus, and then they'd like break ice blocks in half and bench press cars?
Yeah, I remember them coming to school doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, we're taekwondoing for Jesus, but that seems Korean, and Jesus wasn't Korean, was he?
But now there are a lot of Korean Baptists.
There are a lot of
That's
Korean
like the
Baptists.
primary thing, I think.
Yeah, Mikado churches.
Some of the people commented about it's like, what does this have to do with Christianity? You can't be a Christian and do that. It's like, do you know how many Christians there are in the United States? Like, almost, I imagine like 70% of the fans of MMA are Christian. Because there are 70% of the people are Christian. So it's like, how can you not reconcile those two things? Anybody who does anything does what they do, and they're Christian as well.
I would actually say
Speaking
there's
of-
probably more of them, more than 70% are Christian, because of the demographic they're catering to.
Possibly.
Like, you're not going to get...
Speaking of not reconciling, I gotta say, did you see the shirt that they talked about?
I don't remember. Which one is it?
There's a company out there that makes Christian-based MMA shirts, and the shirt that made them all the money said, "Jesus didn't tap."
But the ref
Just
sure
think
should
about
have. No, the ref should have stepped in there. The ref he should have stepped in. That match was over long ago.
Well, the problem was that the fucking Romans were distracting the ref, so they didn't. He didn't know what was happening.
It's like Mutant League MMA.
Yeah.
Pontius was the illegal man on the field. Pontius Pilate or whatever.
God, now I want to make a terrible joke.
Dude, go ahead.
The guy with the hammer tapped.
Oh.
I couldn't help it.
That's what I'm talking about. How can you not realize you're saying a reference of Jesus moving his hand, and his hand is nailed to a cross? That's the stupidest thing that you could write on a shirt. Like, if you wanted to be like, okay, Jesus, Son of God, tough. Anything other than Jesus didn't tap. Because his hand was nailed to the cross.
Oh, man.
But
I did saw an awesome graphic in like the video that I saw it in. They had like this like Photoshop thing of a picture of like someone like doing a chokehold / camel clutch thing on a person, and it had Jesus' face there, and the caption said "Submit to Jesus." I was like, that is the greatest advertisement I've ever seen.
I think when you started off, when you were talking about this, you said that like this is something they're trying to do to draw more men to church.
Yes, apparently the number of men going to church has decreased. So they're like, we need more men in here.
It's funny because I saw an article yesterday, somebody else posted it somewhere saying that the number of people attending church in general has decreased, which I knew that, but like they're talking about how some of these smaller churches are now even struggling to find pastors and stuff because they're in such high demand and there's so few of them showing up that they can't afford them, so they kind of get these like people that are like visiting pastors and stuff. And I started thinking about it, I was like, why? Because church, which is weird, this is going to be weird to say, if you ignore the religion side of it, you only really deal with that side of it an hour to 2 hours a week, on one day a week, Sunday. But people talk about doing shit all the time with church.
Church basketball, church picnics, church trips.
Exactly. And that's because what church really is church is a social structure for you to have events with people who have a similar interest or come from the same community. Well, nowadays with the internet and social media, you don't fucking need it. And so I think that's why less people go. They're like, well, I can still believe in God and not go to church. And if that asshole doesn't want to let me into his fucking house because I didn't want to go suck his dick, every day for my life, then fuck him. I don't want to go anyway. So.
Wait, are we talking Catholics now? Priests?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But I think it's kind of what it is. It's a social thing. And this MMA is like another side of it. It's like another social event to bring people in. It's just something that's a lot more different than potluck dinners and basketball.
Yep.
So,
now, I heard that there was also like a female offshoot. I just studied this not too long ago. Because they have the Jesus Fight Club. Now, since women aren't going to church as much like you're saying, they've made one that's called Feminine Christianity. And they have these get-togethers called the Jesus Spite Club, where all the women get together and talk shit about the other women that they used to go to church with, who they've been sleeping with, the kind of clothes that they were wearing that was inappropriate.
That's an actual thing they actually do.
That's an
at
actual
church.
aspect of church, yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. This is the Jesus Fight Club. Jesus Fight and Jesus Fight.
That's awesome.
As long as there's Jesus, it'll always be right. Bleach.
First rule of Jesus Spite Club is you don't talk about it because that bitch Martha's going to run her fucking mouth to everybody.
Just tell the whole world. But that's all right.
She looked at his wife, and then she looked at his husband in front of the Lord. In front of the Lord, they had those lascivious thoughts.
Good word.
They always say lascivious. Who fucking says lascivious except for old women? Nobody says that shit.
That seems like that would be a good name. I'm going to name a role-playing character Lascivious.
Sir Lascivious!
Yes!
Can we please have Sir Lascivious's background right now, Shango?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Well, as to be expected, he was raised by a loving mother in the warm environment of a brothel. He grew up with all the women in the sex trade who all taught him everything that he would need to know in his life as a knight. Because you all know that in the end, after all the fighting, the knight winds up fucking the princess. And most knights don't know what they're doing. They spend all their time learning the sword fight and no time learning to please women.
That's right.
So then you just have a big idiot with some armor and a freaking sword who can't even please you at night. But Sir Lascivious, He got your hand.
So now what I
That's
imagine
right.
is in this kingdom, princesses are purposely getting themselves in bad situations and leaving notes saying, "Call for Sir Lascivious to come save me."
Yes! Please save me from my cold bed.
I heard once said that Sir Lascivious stated to a woman, "So many other knights concentrate on swinging their swords around, but I am the only knight who concentrates on putting his sword in the sheath."
I guess he learned that you just don't swing a sword, but you can penetrate with it too.
That's
Yes.
right.
He concentrates on the thrust mostly.
What's more intimate than sword play?
Oh my god!
Oh my
Who the
God.
fuck came up with... Hold on. Sword play? Why don't they call it gunplay when people are shooting each other?
Actually, they do.
Yeah.
They do?
Yes.
Why the fuck do they say play? That's not fun. Playing is going down a slide or riding a roller coaster. Yay! I'm playing!
It's probably one of those things more that the word play became known as doing that rather than when it was originally used in sword play, which when it wasn't known for a child goes outside and plays on the playground or something.
That's probably true.
So I'm going to change the word murder to death play. What did you get put in jail for? Death play. What?
Death.
I'm never saying murder again. I'm saying death play for the rest of my life.
Well, no, because but that's not right. You have to think of how the murder happened. I mean, if it happened with guns, then it was gunplay.
That's true.
If you stabbed him,
They're
it was
all
knife
weapons.
play. If you suffocated,
right.
it was pillow play.
Now, Mario, if you will, can have the Tanuki suit or the raccoon tail or the fucking Hammer Brothers suit, but he's still player one. Death player one. Because he's killing those fucking Koopas.
Stomp play,
That's right, stomp play.
fireball play, tail wagging play.
That sounds like sexual thing there.
Tail whacking play.
I'm pretty sure we can make all this into sexual stuff. I mean, sword play in general, just right out.
Yeah.
there.
I'm pretty sure that tail whacking play happens a lot at furry conventions
Jesus.
that don't get gassed, of course. Are those people okay, Kyle? Did they
Why are you
survive?
asking me? I think I kept up with that story. I had 20
Well,
people link it to me. I saw the title. I was like, I don't give a fuck about
Kyle
this.
doesn't know if they're alive. The hospital is too well guarded.
Yes!
If I had no way.
I kill every last one of them.
Oh,
I
man.
have their suit up on my wall.
No, I would not. I would not keep a fuck suit hanging on my wall.
But back to masculine Christianity.
Are we
let's-
still in it?
What are some other things with this other than the Fight Club stuff? I mean, I've never heard of masculine Christianity. I mean, I'm an atheist, but I don't. To me, being an atheist means I just don't pay attention to the rest of it because it doesn't fucking matter. So I don't keep up with it.
It was based on being strong in mind and strong in body was basically the thing. Mentally tough and physically tough at the same time.
Now, when they have communion, I hear that they take the wine bottles and they say, "Okay, go long." And then the guy will run up to the altar and he throws the wine bottle and catches it, and then they pour it out.
I see.
Well, I mean,
Let's just think of all the ways that we can make church masculine. Like they don't have like just regular crackers. They have like a giant fucking loaf of old bread, and there's just men up there with swords like, ha, ha, like cutting this like 7-day-old bread up.
that doesn't make
Instead
it
of a-
masculine. To make it masculine, it'd be like you don't eat like a communion wafer, like a communion steak, like a fucking
Yeah.
Sure.
medium rare 16-ounce T-bone. You got to eat it all, bone included.
Yeah. Oh man.
You'd have beer instead of wine.
Yeah, wine. It's that fruity shit.
And then you don't have an organ player. You have a like electric guitarist or something out there. It's still an old woman, but she's got an electric guitar. She's going to town.
Baddest bitch
Or
in
the
town.
fucking sax player from the Lost Boys. Remember that guy with his shirt off and he had the big cross on and the mullet?
Yeah.
He would just show
Oh man.
mullet and sunglasses. Oh,
All the pews are just
They're bleachers.
Giant. Yes, they're bleachers. Even better than what I was going to say.
oh my God.
And-
I mean, they're gone. Oh, they're gone.
And the service isn't over until somebody can pin the preacher to the ground and he submits. So like, as long as he doesn't submit, so like if you have like some badass preacher up there and a bunch of pussies in the fucking service, that service might go on for like days. You ain't gonna say it. You're like the macho man up there fucking preaching.
And instead of holy water, when you walk in, there's like engine oil that you like dip your finger in.
They like scrape your neck with it and stuff.
Yeah.
And like that's how they do baptisms. They just fucking douse a baby in fucking motor oil. Just like fucking face first. God, that'd be disgusting. I don't even want to think about that.
Ugh.
I don't know, man. Fucking this church sounds pretty awesome.
It does.
Well,
If you could just go for the social aspect of it.
That would be great. It's like, well, are we going to talk about God? Don't need him.
Yeah.
I can whittle a log cabin out of a great redwood. What? Yeah, with my pocket knife.
what was the
One time I sneezed and a continent happened.
They just start talking about how they made the earth in 7 days.
Exactly.
What did you do on the first day, John? Well, let me tell you what I did on the first day.
I made the earth in 6 because wrestling's for bitches.
I took out my 67 Camaro, and by that I mean 067, because I had thought about the world for 67 days, and when I drove, America happened.
What was the anime was Black Lagoon, but what was the church in that anime?
The Church of Violence.
Church
This
of
is the
Violence.
beginning of
That's
it.
what we sound like we're creating. Is the Church of Violence. Like there's got to be guns and stuff too for that, though, and knives.
See it.
Like you get a knife when
No.
you come in. Like there's not books with scriptures. There's knives and guns. He's handed to you. And so rather than like singing with the choir, you just fire your gun off in the air during the service.
Dude, fire rhymes with choir, so it's getting there.
Yeah,
It's
I like this.
true. They can have NRA pamphlets. This is Bible. It's the same.
Yeah, they probably already do actually. I mean, we joke, but this is basically like Southern churches in 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe
You know what I love? I love it when people take pictures of Jesus and like try to make him the whitest redneck ever. Like he has like big, huge arms and a mullet, and he has like an American flag behind him, or he's got a shotgun.
It's came a long way since the AD.
Exactly.
Or BC, I should say. Or the AD, it had to be.
Yeah,
He would have come a long way before BC because he wasn't there at all. I went a really long way.
Oh man, Jesus, what an ass. Actually, I don't think it's Jesus being an asshole.
He's a great guy. It's the other people that's the problem.
Yeah.
Which this goes to a discussion I had with somebody about fan bases. Like people were talking about like football fan bases are the worst. Like the UGA fans are the worst, or the Alabama fans are the worst. I'm like, no. Every fan base has a horrible group within it. Like Christianity. Like there are good Christians, but there are a lot of really bad ones. And those Jesus fans are the fucking worst. And they make everybody in that group look bad.
Yeah, when they riot, they have to call it the Crusades.
Yeah.
You know? It's shit like that. It doesn't matter what it is, anything. Bands. You know, you go see a band play, and there's always that one guy there who's drunk and annoying. And you're like, God, fuck this guy. He's a fucking horrible member of the fan base you got to deal with.
Yep.
So,
Not to be confused with the drunk guy who ended up getting fake blood sprayed on him and then arrives home and goes, oh my God, I killed somebody.
oh man, good times. Well, Evan, why don't we talk about some more fighting, but on a different continent?
What? Oh, speaking of mullets,
Fucking moron.
dude. What was the guy's? I watched half of Wrestle Kingdom 9.
Yes,
And Kyle watched the whole
I
thing.
did.
And I wanted to say this a minute ago, but I didn't want to jump into it too soon. Did you see the fucking perfect mullet that guy had? Where like the side, he looked like a nasty boy.
Oh yeah,
It was in the match where the dude who looked like Hulk Hogan won, and nobody thought that he was going to win.
yeah. Well, hold on. First, explain what Wrestling Kingdom 9 is for people who don't
It's
know.
New Japan. It's New Japan Pro Wrestling's WrestleMania, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It happens once a year on New Year's, and it's like a 3-hour-long wrestling event extravaganza.
That's not what it sounds like. When I hear it, I think of like the Warring Kingdoms or something.
That's what I thought.
I'm just imagining these wrestlers out on the field, like riding up on horses, and they jump off and they're body slamming each other with like samurai armor on and stuff like that.
Like they're not jousting at each other as they ride by. They fucking like grab somebody and DDT his ass off the horse. Amazing.
I want to go to that kingdom right now.
Yeah.
That's
pay
where I want
so
to
much money
die.
To watch that.
Now, I heard that the leader of the royalty there is actually King Corn Khan from Pro Wrestling, With the karate, the Mongolian chop.
There's a challenger coming up for that.
Oh yeah?
They just call him the Black King.
Oh my god.
I mean the horse, not the guy.
Fucking horse.
Or it could be a guy with a leopard mask on.
That would be the horse that you would ride up to. Somebody's on, you go to grab the guy, the horse grabs you and fucking suplexes you.
Yeah.
With the guy on the back. And the guy just doesn't know what he's doing because the guy's tied down.
That's a badass horse. That's a horse of a different color.
Yeah. That horse is
blood
insane.
color.
Oh man.
But yeah, Wrestle Kingdom happens once a year. It's done by New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they're kind of like. There's been a lot of there's all of Japan Pro Wrestling. There's Hustle. There's Dream. There's tons of things going on over there. But they're kind of like one of the most respected because they've been around the longest. They've had most of the American talent that goes overseas ends up going to them.
Yeah, there are a lot of Americans that I recognize names and stuff that were wrestling in this thing.
And this year, due to Jeff Jarrett starting Global Force Wrestling, he decided, since he was already doing business with them, to bring this over to America. So he hired Matt Stryker and good old JR to do the commentary, which I thought was great because both of them are good commentators. And I think what I saw of it, they did a really good job. But it's cool to finally see New Japan Pro Wrestling without having to say, okay, I understood three sentences he said in the last 17 seconds.
Yeah, I mean... I was talking about this before the podcast. I'm not a big JR fan, but it was nice being able to actually understand what the commentators are saying to an extent. And actually, when they start talking about people and they give background on them, like, so I haven't followed wrestling in years, and I've never really followed Japanese wrestling, but it was cool to see like some differences in the two. Mm-hmm. Like one of them to me was that like it's a big deal about who these wrestlers trained under. Because several of the matches they talk about, like, oh, these guys both trained under two huge names, and now they're facing it off, and like people are really looking forward to this match to see these two proteges face each other. And that was cool.
That was Sakuraba and the other guy, because they trained under Carl Gotch, who was like one of the most serious, like not even just pro wrestling, but actual like catch wrestling that they use in MMA.
Yeah, because their match was like it was a pro wrestling match, but like they used like different rules for countouts and stuff like that. I don't think there was a count out. I think it was like by submission or tap. So,
and I'm pretty sure it's what they call a work shoot because you could see that they were clearly hitting the shit out of each other, and you could hear it. But I think they agreed probably before the match. Okay, you're gonna win. This is when you're gonna, get your comeback after I beat you up. But I mean, they were kicking the shit out of each other and slapping the shit out of each other, like the old Pancrase matches. Like when Boss Root was fighting, they couldn't do they have to do open hand slaps, if I remember correctly, because they couldn't do punches. So they were just like slapping the shit out of each other.
Yeah. It was really cool to see like the different styles too, because like it's a lot more high flying stuff and a lot less like big idiots just throwing each other around. I mean, there is a little bit of that, but not a lot. And it's usually coming from the Americans they have in there.
It's not just the Hogan leg drop or, the Cena 5-knuckle shuffle. It's like a backflip onto somebody's head where you land on their shoulders and then you twist their feet and their neck flips and they spin over and then they do a drop kick on the guy who's already on the ground.
Yeah. That
was just on the first match, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, the first two matches were like tag team matches, but it was like 4 tag teams or 8-man or 4-man tag teams and stuff like that. So they were like huge and they were doing some like really synchronized stuff. I was like, God. I mean, it's just really good looking too. The way the moves and stuff they were pulling off, you could tell it was a lot, I guess, tighter or cleaner than I think, at least what I remember of American wrestling.
Yeah, like I noticed that Alex Shelley was there.
Yes.
I think he's been over in Japan for a while, and he was part of the Motor City Machine Guns, which is what I consider one of the top 5 tag teams of the last 10 to 15 years. I used to watch TNA just to watch their matches. They're fucking fantastic. And they were going up against, I believe it was Ring of Honor's current champions, and then I think it was New Japan's up-and-coming tag team or something like that, and there was another one. And the way that it worked, if I remember correctly, was it was tag anybody. So you didn't have to tag your partner. You could just like walk up and tag somebody else, and they would have to get it.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning, JR was like, who's the legal man? I'm confused.
I'm sure that's not the first time he's been confused.
He's too busy making delicious barbecue sauce.
I'm the legal man.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the other matches. I know you haven't seen all of them. Did you see the Kenny Omega match?
No, but I love Kenny Omega.
So that was a good one. That was really good. But the first thing, like, I saw him, I was like, that guy looks really familiar. He's really familiar. I've seen him somewhere before. And then I realized I saw him wrestle a 9-year-old. I had a clip on the internet. Hakura, I think was her name, when I looked it up.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Isn't he the guy that wrestled the blow-up doll, too?
Yeah.
Yoshiki, I think the name was, and he did the fucking Zangief Omega Drive run.
Yes.
Omega Buster!
That guy's great because, like, you can tell, especially when you watch him wrestle the 9-year-old, like, he's good because he knows, like, how to handle the people in the ring to make sure they're okay, but he can also do some crazy stuff himself, and he's willing to, like, he's making it a show, but he's still, like, athletic and good at it.
Yep.
Like, you could walk up and touch his chest, and he would look like he just got shot with a cannon.
Yes.
Like, he's a perfect seller. Yeah.
He
And he pays attention to the selling, too. It's not like, oh, I hurt my leg 2 minutes later. My leg's fine. He'll, like, keep holding on to his leg the whole match. Like, if you notice in the Sakuraba match, that other guy was holding on to his arm the whole time. I love seeing that because it makes it more believable, you know? It's much more easier to get pulled into it when you see, man, his arm's really fucking hurt.
Yeah, I agree.
That's like Shawn Michaels. Every time I see Shawn Michaels get hurt, I'm like, fuck, is he really hurt?
Yeah.
God damn it, he got me again.
Yeah.
Even during his freaking Iron Man match, for like 30 fucking minutes, he's got that injury. You're just like, God damn.
That's like the best, man, because you really, if you can't tell if they're acting, then they have done their job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And, like, and that's the thing is, like, yes, you know pro wrestling is fake. No one, that's a given at this point. But it's like the selling of it. Like, if I see somebody take a hit, I'm like, damn. Even though I know, you know, they're not actually out there trying to kill each other. If they sold me enough that I'm actually flinching or, like, pulling back or, like, being shocked at a hit, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, every match had something at some point. I was like, oh, my God, that poor guy. And I always like the high maneuvers off the ropes and stuff. Like, there's so much of that. Even the bigger dudes over there were doing it.
Speaking of which, Japan is like, they are renowned for their respective wrestling. It gets treated like we treat football over here. And that being said, a lot of American wrestlers used to go there back in the day. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but one of my favorite stories is Vader. Do you guys remember Vader?
Yes.
Big Van Vader?
Yeah.
He went over there and wrestled a guy who had pretty much just decided to stay in Japan called Stan Hansen. And Stan Hansen was like this cowboy guy, and one of his gimmicks he would come to the ring with like a cowbell tied to a rope. And he was like this crazy cowboy. Well, Big Van Vader and him had this wrestling match. Well, the thing is, Stan Hansen has to wear glasses because he can't see shit. So he gets in the ring with Vader and doesn't realize Vader is as close to him as he actually is. And he hits Vader in the head with the cowbell, and Vader's eye fucking fell out of his head. There's video footage of this.
Wow.
So, like, yeah, he hit him in the head with the cowbell, and the dude's eyeball fell out of his skull. So he's sitting there, and Vader's got, like, this shit coming out of his eye, and, like, Stan Hansen doesn't know what's going on because he can't see. So he's beating the shit out of Vader. Vader's holding his own eyeball. There's shit coming out of his face. So Vader's just like, what the fuck is this? So stuff like that happens all the time. So people say wrestling's fake a lot, but when you hear stuff like that happen, it's like, well, goddamn. So Vader, of course, puts his eyeball back in, and instead of calling the match, starts beating the shit out of Stan Hansen. It's like, you motherfucker, you knocked my goddamn eyeball out, you piece of shit. And it's like, you just know that there were like 15 Japanese people in the front row that was like, Mimi, like his eyeball.
Yeah.
It's like,
That was the year, actually.
What was it's me?
May.
May. Yeah. May. Suge. They just can't believe. It's like, that looks like his eyeball really fell out. And then a couple of days later, they find out, holy shit, his eyeball fell out. Oh my god.
I'm just gonna put this back. All right, now let me beat the crap out of you.
Now, if
Did Vader win that match?
Don't remember.
Yeah, also I remember his eyeball.
Yeah, I just remember watching that like 700 times on YouTube. It's like, you can see the eyeball fall out. Like, I don't know what the shit was that was coming out of his face, but it wasn't blood. It was like some kind of clear fluid. I'm pretty sure it wasn't like tears or anything, because your head's not like a wine bottle full of tears.
It might be with the irritation from the air actually touching the inside. It might have been tears.
But yeah, shit like that, like over there, happened all the time. Like, don't even get me started on the death matches with FMW and all that stuff. But over there, wrestling is at a completely different level.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's too. You kind of mentioned the crowd and stuff watching. That was something else that was interesting. The crowd is so quiet.
Yeah, it's so respectful, man.
Yeah, like it's so quiet. The only time they get loud is when like something big happens. You know, and even then it's not like crazy loud. Like they pick up a bit. Like, oh, you know, maybe they clap louder or cheer a little bit. But like you could hear, like when I watched American wrestling, you cannot hear the wrestlers are saying really. All you hear is grunts. Like you could tell though that times like they're saying things in the ring because it's so quiet. You can hear what the fuck they're saying. You know?
No, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah,
it's like really over the top shit too. It's funny.
Yeah, but I know you haven't seen the Kenny Omega match one, which was pretty good. My two favorite matches from this one were the last two, actually, the Intercontinental and the Heavyweight. The Intercontinental one was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Kota Ibushi.
Oh, Ibushi's great, man.
He is great, but the Nakamura guy fucking cracked me up.
I've never heard of him.
So he comes out there wearing this crown and this black and red, like, doublet and this, like, huge coat and everything, and he's got his hair cut so he looks like Michael Jackson. And they're talking about how he's a huge fan of Freddie Mercury and Michael Jackson. And so he's like the ultimate heel. He's out there like, one of his moves is like he just fucking stomps the fuck out of the dude's face repeatedly. So Ibushi basically starts to fuck with him. He starts to do the same thing over and over and over again to him. So it was a really good match. And then the final match was between Hiroshi Tanahashi and then Kazuchika Okada.
I don't know either of those guys.
Yeah, I'd never heard of either one of them, but it was pretty good. It went on it was a 30-minute match, so.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed it. And some of the matches are super short. You know, like, I always feel like when you watch, like, pay-per-view matches for, like, American wrestling, they're all fairly long, and there's not really necessarily a lot of them. You know, they're all probably about 20 to maybe 30 minutes. And they kind of fill a lot of the empty space with like fucking drama,
soap operas,
shit you don't want. Which
bullshit scripting.
They didn't really do that in this pay-per-view. There's a few times where there's like a video segment they cut together, maybe 2 or 3 of them, but they weren't more than 2 to 3 minutes. But it was pretty much like match to match, back, you know, going and going and going. And some of them, like looking at the times they have counted for them, were barely 5 minutes long.
Speaking of which, the point I was going to make back at the beginning, the guy's mullet, fan-fucking-tastic. let me lead into this. This is actually a point that I have to make here.
Who was it?
I can't remember his goddamn
Was
name,
it
but
one
it
of
was
the
the guy.
American guys?
No, he was a Japanese dude who used to only fight in death matches. And then he decided to do regular wrestling matches because he was one of the guys that came to the ring with a mask and a cape, and then he took them off. And he had, like, on the side of his head, like where the crew cut is, there was like two perfect rows of wheat of blonde hair. And then in the middle it was black, and they were perfectly even. Then he had the long, like, fucking Nasty Boys mullet in the back. But that's besides the point. The thing that made me so happy was the guy in that match that was dressed like Hulk Hogan. You remember that dude?
Okay, yeah.
The blonde dude?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part of Wrestle Kingdom 9 was watching him miss that first dropping headbutt off the ropes. I want you to go back and I want you to play that in slow motion because he looks like he trips and he is scared and he falls down. And me and my buddy Mike laughed for like 5 minutes, and we were laughing so hard we couldn't even rewind it, so we just kept going back and forth like on Stranglemania. And you just see him because clearly he's doing a headbutt off the ropes, but his face was so intent. It's like, I'm gonna get you, but it also looks like, oh, I'm falling. And it was like the greatest part of the whole thing, and he ended up winning because, like, I think that was part of the thing, was the commentators were trying to make him sound like he wasn't the greatest wrestler. And then it was a big upset when he won because it's like, nobody would have expected it.
Yeah, I gotta remember that one. I think that's one thing too, like with wrestling, is like going back to saying it's fake stuff. it's not so much fake as it's orchestrated. It's like you said, it's a giant entertainment thing. There are actors out there doing this, and they can get hurt and they can mess up. I mean, and people can die from that, from those mess ups. Like before the podcast, I sent Evan a video of Matt Hardy falling off of a cage last night. Jeff Hardy, yeah, falling off of a cage last night and landing. And when he lands, that sound he makes, you're like, that's not the way he was supposed to land. And they were like, no, he's hurt. We have to do, like CAT scans or MRIs to make sure he's okay. So.
First off, he didn't just fall once. He fell off the top of a cage onto the door of the cage on his balls.
That was probably planned.
Yeah.
They do that stuff.
But still, his nuts held all of his body weight. That in and of itself is terrifying enough.
He's probably done enough drugs and roids. He doesn't really have nuts anymore. So.
That is a fair point. But still, the rest of us who do have balls all saw that and went, oh.
Yeah.
And then he's swinging back and forth on this cage door, and he falls neck down like Lara Croft when you drop off some shit and you don't adjust in air. And boom! Falls right on his shoulders and neck on the steps, I think it was, right?
On the edge of the ring. I think
On the edge of the ring.
Yeah, it was the steps or the edge or something. And then rolled off of that onto the floor.
I personally don't like Jeff Hardy. I think he's a piece of shit, but still, I hope he's okay, because that looked fucking horrible.
Oh, yeah, like, the sound when he hits that is just, holy crap. Like, something's messed up. Like, that was not meant to happen. So.
Because regardless of their actual character in real life, they're doing that to entertain people.
Yeah.
They're spending hours of their days hurting themselves on purpose so that they can keep people happy. And there was a guy named Hayabusa who used to fight in FMW, it's the Japanese Federation back in the day. And he got famous on the internet, unfortunately, for botching a moonsault. He was a masked wrestler. And he tried to do a moonsault off the second rope. And he made it halfway up. And then he landed on his head.
Ooh.
And he broke his neck.
I've seen
He
that.
broke his neck. And it's just like, just within the last, I think it was 5 or 10 years, he started walking again. And it's like, god damn, people put themselves through so much bullshit.
Yeah, that's
just to keep people entertained.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, it's like, or then there's people like who was it? Owen Hart, who it wasn't even wrestling; it was just a mishap with like cabling, and he fell and died.
Oh yeah.
Or who is the guy, the Draws, who fell off?
Darren Drozdoff.
Yeah, fell off the
yeah,
Titantron and like. I mean, he never came back to wrestling because he lived, but he didn't come back because like he broke his neck or something horrible.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't recover from that like Hayabusa did.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the best part of Beyond the Mat was like Draws sitting in front of Vince McMahon. He's like, "We're gonna call you Puke, so I need you just because I hear that you can throw up on command."
Okay.
And then it gets real quiet, and he's like staring at him in the eyes, and he goes, "He's gonna puke. He's
gonna
puke.
He's gonna puke."
And Drozdoff's just like,
Yeah, well, he was.
And I'm like, what the fuck am I watching?
He was a football player, and that's what he would do out on the field when he's standing along the line. He would just start puking, like on the line. So that was like a thing he did. So that's why they knew he could do it. But yeah, I remember him come. I remember when he came, and I remember when that happened when he fell, and I was just like, oh, I thought he was dead. I thought I just watched a man die, like watching Owen Hart die. I thought he was watching another guy die from falling off of something. They're like, no, he's alive. He's just never probably gonna walk again.
That double sucks for me because Owen Hart I always thought was okay. Like, behind the scenes, he was hilarious. He's a big prankster and all this other stuff. But his character that he got famous for in the beginning was Blue Blazer.
Blue Blazer, yeah.
And when Blue Blazer came back, I was like, fuck yeah, because he was one of my favorite wrestlers. When I was a kid, when I was in, like, 2nd grade, I had a dream that I was, like, skateboarding in a park with the Blue Blazer. And it was, like, one of the best moments of my entire life. I woke up and told everybody at school about it. I was so happy. And then when he came back, I was like, finally, after all these years, the Blue Blazers returned. And then he fucking dies. Because of some bullshit-ass people not paying attention to their job and rigging up the steel stuff right.
Sucks.
People do so much for wrestling just to get shit on, you know? It's all fake, it's phony, but if they knew half the stuff that goes on, Vader's eyeball falling out.
Well, see, I think some of that, too, it comes from watching only American wrestling, which American wrestling now is so much just bullshit soap opera stuff that you're like, oh, this is so just, there's so little wrestling. You know, like, when I see people talk about Raw, I don't see people saying, man, that was really good. Everyone bitches about it. No one ever says how good it was. It's like, why is it still on the air? Because people still fucking watch it. You know,
it's like an abusive relationship. They just watch it so they can complain about it afterwards.
Oh my
Exactly.
god!
just leave her.
Got together with Raw again.
Yeah.
I
Nothing.
thought he finally changed.
Nothing but drama for 4 hours.
Pretty much.
And it sucks because they have really good people there, like the Shield. They got Daniel Bryan. They got so much good stuff going on. But for whatever reason, the people who write the shit just keep fucking burying them and keep pushing the people that nobody care about other than like 7-year-olds.
Because the 7-year-olds are what makes the money.
But then you watch NXT, which is also owned by WWE, what they consider the minor leagues, and ratings-wise, it's completely dominating Raw. It's just tearing it up to the point where Vince McMahon is getting upset that his minor leagues is doing better than his fucking major staple that has made him all
Then
this
he's
money.
a goddamn idiot. Because let me
Absolutely.
tell you what, if I own a company, which is basically what that is, and it's like, this other product that I didn't think would do as good is actually doing better. You know what that means? It means I'm getting a lot of money from that other product as well.
And I'll tell you why it's doing well, because Triple H and Steven Regal are running that motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, if he was smart, he would just market that more. Or he would basically start
Exactly.
slowly turning Raw into that. But the thing is that, like, if Raw seems like it's probably marketed more towards, like, younger kids, because, like, you're talking about the people that they're pushing, well, they're idiots. The kids are. They'll like whatever you get them to like. If you slowly convince them they'll like what's on NXT, they'll fucking like what's on NXT. That's all there is to it.
That's true.
I think the reason that they make all these changes is because it became a public company, so now their shares are available to the public. So they try to appeal to everybody. But the problem is they're appealing to people who don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
they're
like, I
just
gotta bring
worried
in
about
everything.
them making money. They're not worried about
That they've got shareholders then, and
Yeah.
shareholders just tell you to do some random shit because it might make them another dollar.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. That's what it comes down to.
And you know what people like these days? What are those people called? Packages? You mean rappers? Yes, rappers. Get me a rapper in there, like that. Give me a white rapper. That one's different. We don't have any white. Just use John Cena.
John Cena. Does he actually even still wrestle?
Yes,
I don't know.
But you know who doesn't, though, speaking of rappers? Oh, fuck, what was his name? K-Quick. What was that guy's name?
No idea.
I don't know.
Hey, quick. It sounds like a horrible
Yeah, his name was K-Quick, and then he left and he came back, and he was like this. He was this black dude, and he had like he had his hair braided.
Wait, what was he before he left? Chinese?
Yeah. Dude, life will change you, man. You travel and you change. No, but he comes back and he's like a funny rapper guy, and he would sing on the way to the ring. He'd go, "What's up?" And he just had this big song, and then for whatever reason, he went from this like totally serious like rapper dude to this guy who was obsessed with somebody named Little Jimmy. You know what I'm talking about?
No, but that's awesome.
He's like,
Something.
I just can't get that push because Little Jimmy holding me back. And like he would like walk around and like,
Hey man, don't you blame that on me.
it's like that. It's like that. Like you'd see a promo of like Shawn Michaels and Triple H talking, and then all of a sudden, like the camera would turn the corner and he'd just be sitting there and be like, I knew Little Jimmy was looking out for me, and I knew it in my heart. And it's just like, what the fuck have they done to this guy? And then they fired him. I can't believe I can't remember his name because you talked about him.
I think I kind of remember this guy, but it's not because I watched him, but it's because I've seen like gifs people have made of him on the internet. It was like him like crouched down, looking all serious, and suddenly he goes into this slow, weird little sneaky smile he's got.
That's him. That's him.
Okay.
Fuck, what's his goddamn name? Everybody out there is just screaming their names at their fucking iPods and their phones right now.
They're screaming their names. They're like, John!
Unless he's
Susan!
listening. Unless he's listening, he's like, my goddamn name is Blood.
Finally, someone remembered me. So what, did he get fired and he just went somewhere else, or what?
Yeah, he's working for the Indies now, I believe.
Okay.
Oh.
You know, another person, going back to the Wrestling Kingdom 9, that I've never really watched, but the name I know and I hear a lot, who was actually there was AJ Styles. He actually was wrestling in that pay-per-view. Tetsuya Naito is who he wrestled against.
What was his name again? The other guy?
AJ Styles.
AJ style?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was in TNA for a long time. He's from Georgia.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. He's from Gainesville, I think. So I was like,
He's
oh.
a little dude, but man, he's really good.
Yeah, he was good. That was a good match too. That was one of the last three, so it was good. But I'd heard the name. I'd never actually watched him wrestle, and I was fairly impressed. But when I know Jeff Jarrett wrestled too, and I was like, I fucking hate you so much. I cannot stand him. I've never liked him. I was like,
let me say this, dude. I listened to an interview with Jeff Jarrett on it was on a podcast. It was either JR's podcast or Chris Jericho or Stone Cold. I can't remember. No, it was on Roddy Piper's podcast. He is one of the coolest dudes. Like, I changed my mind immediately on Jeff Jarrett because his character, he's just such a good wrestler. He's just such a good entertainer that he just pisses you off. It's just like, this guy's a complete piece of shit. I don't even want to watch TV anymore. But then you listen to him talk about like life and how he acts, and you're just like, what a cool guy.
I mean,
who knew?
He's done a lot for wrestling too, and
yeah,
you know, when you think about stuff like that. But maybe that's it. Maybe just his character. He sold that character so well that I still think he really is an asshole.
Yeah.
But Jeff fucking Jarrett, I saw him and I was like, what the fuck? And then Davey Boy Smith Jr. Is he actually the Davey Boy Smith's son, or is he just somebody who took his name?
Yeah, it's his son. You can look at his face and tell he's British Bulldog's kid.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because that was the match.
That was the 8-man tag team match.
Yeah. Because there's that one guy that was with Jeff Jarrett who was like, he looked like Eiji Yamazaki from King of Fighters.
Yeah.
Or not Yamazaki. He looked like the crazy-ass Yakuza guy. What was that guy's name? Yakuza?
Did it start with an R?
I can't remember his name. I'm such an old man today. I can't remember shit.
How's that?
I know who you're talking about, though.
Yeah, right?
But I did like all the, they had a lot of, so I'm looking through now. The first match was a 15-man, the New Japan Rumble. That was the one that had, it had
Alex Shelley.
And Jushin Thunder Liger and the Great Kabuki and Tama Tonga and all these people like that in there wrestling. Then it was a 4-way tag team match. There was a 6-man tag team match. That was when they had Jeff Jarrett. There was an 8-man tag team match, which is what had the Davey Boy Smith Jr. And then it was mostly singles after that with the tag team championship later on in the night. But I do like how they kind of had, within they had the Bullet Club. I'm guessing Bullet Club is kind of like the Western Americans coming over trying to take over. Or the Western wrestlers.
That was Jeff Jarrett and the crazy Yakuza-looking guy who kind of looked like Frank Davidson in 2006 with the spiky blonde hair and the sunglasses.
That's fantastic. That means no, not then. You remember when we played Street Fighter Alpha?
Dr. Dark.
Freaking Frank looked exactly like Dr. Dark. Or Dr. Dark looked exactly like him.
Yeah, our buddy Frank, a guy that me and Shane and I grew up with, how the fuck you say that? He looks exactly like Dr. Dark when he was growing his hair out. So that was actually his Facebook picture for 2 years. Because it looked exactly like him.
It looked exactly like him because couldn't double. We should have got him a mask like that.
If he was playing paintball, people would be like, that guy's from Capcom. That's Dr. Dark.
Explosive.
Yeah. Explosive.
But yeah, that Wrestling Kingdom 9 was good. For that being the first wrestling I've really watched in probably 6 years, I actually watched it all the way. That's pretty amazing to me. Because most of the time I'll get this is horrible, and I just fucking turn it off after halfway through the first match. But I was intrigued the entire time. I mean, it's almost 4 hours long, so it took me a couple of days to watch through it. But I enjoy all of it.
Yeah, they've had one of the longest held titles there. It's the IGPW title, I believe is what it's called. International Grand Prix Wrestling, I think.
IWGP.
Yeah. And that thing has been, Great Muda's had it. Kensei Shinzaki. You go back, and that's it's like back when belts mattered in WWE. They still treat it that way over in Japan because, the belt is still a serious thing. You know, it's not just something that you give somebody for 2 weeks and then it changes hands. It's that is the whole company. That is your guy if he has the belt.
Yeah, it is obvious, too, in the way that final match went down. And, after that all stuff happened with whoever won, I don't want to say anything since I haven't seen it, but the way that all went down, it's they actually have a little ceremony afterwards about the belt, too.
Hell yeah, man.
You know? So
they know what's up.
And I want to say, too, it's they, I think that I don't read Japanese kanji or anything, but they post 61. So I'm guessing it was saying 61 different champions. Maybe
Could be.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, here we go. Overall, there have been a total of 26 recognized champions who have had a combined 61 official reigns. So, there's something going on in the background there.
There is something going on in the background. My problem is I'm watching like the recording stuff, and so I'm seeing what actually shows up on there, and I keep laughing. It's like there's going to be sweeping in the background. You have to edit it out, but it's hilarious. I was watching. I'm just like, I just started laughing.
Sierra just got home.
I heard somebody come in at one point. Yeah, I'm being professional. I'm not saying anything though.
And I was like, I can't help it. As soon as Shane laughs, it's like a trigger. It's like when you make eye contact with your friend. It's over.
Yes.
Nice.
She's just keeping the house clean.
But yeah, I was gonna say I guess they don't consider it like, oh, you're a champion and we've had this many champions. They also consider reign. So I guess a reign is how many times the belts come up to be like taken away.
A reign is how long that you've had it.
Well, the thing is, they said they have 26 recognized champions who've had a combined 61 official reigns. So I'm guessing some of the champions have been repeat champions then.
They're using it differently. Okay.
Yeah, because they said that Tanahashi is the current champion in his 7th reign.
So, not to be confused with Ric Flair in his reign, 16 times! Woo! 16 times!
Yeah, I think that's true, because I think it's more of when Ric Flair talks about it, it's like he's had the belt 16 times, which also means he lost it 17.
Yeah, good point.
So there's always that side of the coin.
I think you've just invented a new category. Like, previously it's like the 16-time belt winner. Now it's like the 17-time belt loser, Ric Flair.
That's how I'd refer to Ric Flair. Because once again, he's another one of the guys I never really cared for. He's one of the guys I'm kind of like, I know you're like a legend, and there's a lot that the community and the industry has to recognize you for, but just fucking quit, man. Just step away.
You mean his later days?
Yeah, his later days.
I'll tell you what. I liked, even when he was a bad guy, I loved Ric Flair because he was fucking hilarious.
No, I agree.
One of the best promos.
I agree. When I was growing up,
hilarious.
I loved Ric Flair. But like nowadays, when he's still around, it's like it's almost to me, it's like, I understand that you have this role still, but why don't you step back and let some other guys kind of take some life? You know, some of these young guys in there, rather than always having to be a part of everything. It's a pain in the ass to me.
I will say in his later career, he came up with one of the greatest lines of his career. He was talking about something, and somebody called him old. He was like, I got news for you, brother. Disney World, Space Mountain, oldest ride, longest line. Woo! He can always just come up with shit off the top of his head, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Like the Macho Man and the cream of the crop.
Yeah. Rise to the top.
Best
Did it!
promo ever.
He just, man, Macho was on another level, dude. He'd bring like newspapers with him, and like he'd be hiding a garbage can under his cape. Nothing but garbage. You know? And it's like, where the fuck? Why is he carrying a garbage can around with him?
Yeah, he was really good. Unlike, like, the Ultimate Warrior's promos are funny to watch, but it's just because he just goes off on some fucking psycho tangent that makes no goddamn sense. Just loses his shit.
Macho Man would be talking in the back. He'd just be like, so I went to the psychiatrist today, and she said that I was OCD. One cool dude. Dig it! And he'd just walk off.
I've never heard that one. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's great. He would always have the fucking cleverest little things to say.
It's one of those things, like, you could see him and Mean Gene when they would do them together. Like, it was a fun experience.
He didn't even once tell him his mustache was crooked.
I think
He's like, your mustache is crooked. He's like, you don't talk about my mustache, Mr. Savage.
Oh, since I have you here, Evan, you might remember. Who besides Ric Flair and Arn Anderson were the Horsemen when Ric Flair and Arn Anderson were in the Horsemen?
Ole Anderson. Tully Blanchard.
Okay, that was the one.
That's the guy, yeah.
Okay.
Tony Blanchard ended
J.J.
up doing
Dillon.
commentary at one point, didn't he? Or am I thinking of somebody else?
Possibly.
I don't remember.
And then they got Barry Windham, and eventually it went to Lex Luger.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Yeah.
one of my favorite ones, which was way later in the days, was when they got like Guerrero, Benoit, Malenko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Mongo McMichaels, but still, yeah, that guy sucked.
They can't all be good wrestlers.
Yeah, we'll just call it the Three Horsemen, okay?
He was Pestilence.
Yeah, he was a pest,
Plague.
all right. He was a plague.
Oh man.
Any of those would work as a joke. Yeah, he's death. Yeah, he's the death of the Four Horsemen.
I don't know. He wouldn't be War.
War on good wrestling.
Oh man. Well, I think that was going to wrap it up, guys.
Yeah, I think that's just about it.
All right. So, if you have anything you want us to talk about, you can email us. We still have an email. If you haven't emailed us, you can send us something. It's offenderspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can post stuff on Facebook. I think what I'm going to do, maybe before we record, from now on, I'll just post on there and see if there's anything people want us to talk about. So if there's something you see during the week that you're like, hey, I'd like to see these guys talk about this. You can't, because this is recording, so you can't watch us, but you could listen to us talk about it. So just, you could leave a comment on there on the wall, or you could comment when I make the post. And then that way we'll be like, oh, that's cool, so people want to hear us talk about this.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm Kyle.
I'm in.
And I'm going to take my left hand. And I'm going to take my right hand. And I'm going to wave bye-bye, bye-bye, everyone.